You can see a kind of pulse effect. When you slide your slider's thumb, you'll get that tooltips, and when you click outside, tooltips is gone. And once again, when you slide your slider's thumb, tooltips reappears with little bit of animation, and also you can see that green progress bar with animation. So today we are going to build this custom range slider with the help of HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So let's start. Hello and namaste everyone, this is Jitsaru with Coding Design. Welcome to our channel. If you are new here, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. You can see in the same folder I do have image named profile.jpg and also index.html file. Inside the index.html file, nothing much more is going on. You can see just basic HTML tags, and also for the title I have given the custom animated range slider. Now inside the body tag, let's create div with class name range slider. And inside that I'm creating input element with type range. For the range type I'm giving minimum 0. For the maximum I'm giving 200. For the value I'm giving 100. And also I want to give class slider. Similarly, if you have installed this extension called live server, then in index.html file you can right click, you'll get that option called open with live server. If you hit that option, it will open it in your default browser. Now you can see that range slider. Similarly, let's create a div with class name slider thumb. And inside that I'm creating another div with class name tooltip. Now just outside of that slider thumb, I want to create div with class name progress. Now let's style all the elements in CSS. So let's link our CSS file. I'm linking this style.css file. In the style.css file, you can see I have created a variable with default color value. I have created light gray variable, green variable, and the white variable with the color value, okay? And for the universal selector, I have given margin and padding 0 so that it would prevent the browser's default margin and padding. Similarly, I'm giving box sizing border box. Now let's style our body tag. For the body tag, I'm going to give the font family sans serif. And also let's give the height. For the height, I'm giving 100 VH. For the background color, let's give that dark teal variable. So in order to give that dark teal variable, you need to write var. And also you can see that in the dark teal variable, I have assigned dark teal color. Now if I save in the browser, now you can see. Similarly, let's give display flex. Justify content center. You can see content is placed horizontally center, and also let's give align items to center. Align items center will help you to bring your content vertically center. Now you can see it in your browser. Now let's style this range slider. So for the class range slider, I'm giving position of relative. And also let's give user select to none. So user select none will prevent your users from selecting any content or any text or anything within the div class range slider, okay? Now let's style this progress class. Now for the progress class, I'm going to give position of absolute. I'm so sorry for the background noise, guys. Near my house there are lots of trees, and those trees are the home of those words, so I'm so sorry for that. Okay, now coming back to the topic. For the class progress, I'm giving width of 50%, height of 100%, and also let's give the background color. For the background color, I'm giving that green color. Similarly, let's give some border radius. For the border radius, I'm giving 0.4 rem. You can see it in your browser. And also let's give top 50%. So let's give transform. For the transform, I'm giving translate minus 50%. That is translate Y, okay? Translate capital Y. Okay, now you can see that progress screen bar. It is in center position. Now let's style this class slider. For the class slider, I want to give this appearance. The older version of browser, they may not support this property. So for that, I am giving prefix WebKit appearance. So if I give the none, you can see with the help of this code, I am preventing the browser's default input type range. Now let's give the width. For the width, I am giving 80 BW. And also let's give the height. For the height, I am giving 0.2 rem. And also let's give some border radius. For the border radius, I'm giving 0.4 rem. For the background color, let's give that light gray color. And also let's give cursor. For the cursor, let's give pointer. Now in order to change that slider's thumb, for the class slider, I'm giving pseudo element prefix hyphen WebKit hyphen slider thumb. So for the slider thumb, I want to give position relative, and also let's give the same appearance property. For the appearance, I'm giving none. Now you can see in the browser that blue colored slider thumb is now gone. Now let's tell that class slider thumb. For the class slider thumb and also that WebKit slider thumb, I mean that default slider thumb, I want to give width and height of 1.4 rem. And also let's give border radius of 50% so that it would make circle, okay? Similarly for the default slider thumb, for now I want to give that background color red. Later on we'll remove this background color, okay? Now let's duplicate this code. And let's bring this code at the top. Now let's remove this code. Now when you hover that browser's default slider thumb, I want to give box shadow. For the box shadow, I want to give x-axis 0, y-axis 0. For the distance, I want to give 0. For the size, I want to give 0.4 rem. Let's copy that green color, and for the last two digit, I want to give 25. That is the alpha value of that color, which controls the transparency. Now you can see when you hover, you'll get that big green circle, but there is no any transition. So for the browser's default slider thumb, let's give transition. For the transition duration, I'm giving 0.3 second, and for the timing function, I want to give that is in out function. Now you can see when you hover, there is some smooth transition. Similarly, let's duplicate this code. So now instead of hover, for the class slider, I want to give pseudo class active. So when the slider is active, for the slider thumb, I want to give box shadow. For the box shadow, instead of that 0.4 rem, I want to give 0.8 rem. In the browser now you can see when you slide your slider's thumb, you'll get a kind of a pulse effect. So you can see for the class slider and the browser's default slider thumb, we have given the shortened height and width as well as border radius. So now for the class slider thumb, I want to give position of absolute. And also let's give top 50%. And also let's give some background color. For the background color, let's give that green color. Okay, now you can see at the left corner. And also let's give transform. For the transform, let's give translate. And before that, let's give left. For the left, I'm giving 50%. You can see now it is at the center, but it is not completely at the center. So in order to bring exactly at the center of its parents, so for the translate x-axis, I want to give minus 50%, and for the y-axis, I want to give minus 50%. Okay, now you can see in the browser, it's exactly at the center. And also let's give some border. For the border, I'm giving border width of 0.1 rem. For the border style, I want to give solid. And for the border color, I want to give that white color. Now you can see white border around the green circle. And also now let's give for the class range slider display flex. So when you give that display flex, now you can see this is what you want. Now for the default slider thumb, I want to give Z index. For the Z index, let's give 300. Now you can see it is at the top of that green circle. If I comment, now you can see green circle with white border is at the top of that green bar. So now if I give for the class slider thumb g-index of 200, when you comment this g-index 300, now you can see. So now let's uncomment that g-index 300. Now let's tell this class tooltip. For the class tooltip, I want to give position of absolute. For the width, I want to give 12 rem. And for the height, I want to give 8 rem. Similarly, let's give the background color. For the background color, I want to give that white color. You can see it in your browser. For the left, I am giving 50%. And also let's give transform. For the transform, I am giving translate minus 50%. Now you can see it is exactly at the center. Now let's give top. You can see for the class tooltip I have given there 8 rem of height. So for the top we'll give the same value minus 8 rem so that it would bring the tooltip at the top. And also let's give border radius. For the border radius I'm giving 0.4 rem. Now let's duplicate the code. And now for the class tooltip I want to give before pseudo element. And now let's remove this code. This is not necessary. For the content I'm giving nothing. For the both height and width I want to give 0. And also let's give border. For the border width I want to give 0.6 rem. For the border style I want to give solid. For the color I am giving transparent. And also let's give border top. For the border top width I am giving 0.6 rem. For the border style I am giving solid. And for the color for now let's give red. In the browser now you can see that arrow pointing downwards. You can see for the border top and for the border I have given the 0.6 rem. Now if you add that both 0.6 rem, that makes 1.2 rem. So if I give that value for the bottom, okay, instead of that 1.2 rem, let's give minus 1.2 rem. You can see it is exactly at the bottom. Now instead of that red color, let's give white. Okay, now it's looking good. Now inside the div with class name tooltip, I want to create another div with class name tooltip image. And inside that div, I want to give image. For the source, I am giving profile.jpg. And also next to the class tooltip image div, I want to give paragraph tag. Now in the browser, you can see that image. Now let's style our div with class name tooltip image and the image tag in the style.css file. For the class tooltip image, I want to give width of 100% and height of 75%. And also let's style that image tag. For the image, I am giving width of 100%. Okay, now you can see it in your browser. Now for the class tooltip image, I want to give some border radius. For the top left and right, I want to give 0.4 rem. And for the bottom left and right, I want to give 0. So if I give the overflow to hidden. Okay, now you can see that round corner around the box. Similarly, let's give object fit to content. So now when you slide your slider's thumb, that green progress bar as well as the box with that image should move along with the slider's thumb. So in order to do that, it's a very little code. So inside the index.html file at the bottom, I want to create a script tag, and inside the script tag, now let's select this class slider. So I'm writing const slider is equal to document.query selector, and let's give dot slider. So let's duplicate this code for more 3 times. Now let's select that slider thumb. Let's change that variable name. Instead of slider, I'm giving slider thumb. Now let's select that tooltip. And instead of that slider, let's give variable name tooltip. Now let's select that progress class. Let's copy and paste. Instead of slider, let's give that variable name progress. For the class slider, now you can see for the input type range, we have given the class slider. So now for the variable slider, you can add the event listener. So I'm listening for the event input event. For the function name, I'm giving custom range slider. Now you have to create that function. So let's write function custom range slider. So this function will trigger when you slide your slider's thumb. Now you can see there for the input type range we have different attributes, minimum, maximum and the value. So we can access those attribute or those value. So now let's write const value is equal to, inside the bracket I'm giving slider.value. So slider.value will give you the current value of the slider's thumb, and let's give slash. Slider.max will give you the maximum value of the slider. So we want to calculate the percentage of this value. So in order to calculate that, I'm giving asterisk 100, and also let's concatenate the string %. Now I want to show you this value in the console. So for that I'm writing console.log value. So let's go to the browser. Now in the browser, if you press F12 key, now let's go to the console tab. When you slide your slider's thumb in the console, now you can see when you take your slider's thumb at the maximum, then you will get the 100%, and if you bring it to the starting position, then you will get the 0%. So with the help of this value, we'll change the CSS value of class progress and the tooltips dynamically. So for the class progress, you can see in the style.css file, we have given width 50%. Now instead of that 50%, we'll give the dynamic value. I'm writing progress.style.width is equal to this value, okay? So it will change the progress class width dynamically. When I slide the slider's thumb, now you can see that progress bar, it is increasing and decreasing along with the slider's thumb. Similarly, when you slide your slider's thumb, we want to change that position of tooltip. So for the slider thumb variable, I want to give .style.css text is equal to, let's give that backtick. In your keyboard, you will get this symbol just above the tab button. For the class slider thumb, in the CSS file you can see, for the left I have given there 50%, so we will change that value dynamically. So for the left I am giving that value left, but that value is the variable, so I'm writing $curly bracket, inside that I'm giving that value. And also let's change that transform, let's copy and paste. For the transform translate, for the y-axis we want to keep it the same, minus 50%, and for the x-axis we want to change it dynamically, okay? So for that I'm writing $parenthesis value. Okay, in the browser now you can see when you slide your slider's thumb, box with image is moving along with your slider's thumb. Now let's go to the CSS file. Let's remove that red background color. Now you can see it in your browser. This is what you want, okay? So for the class tooltip, for the top we want to change, but you can see that tooltip's arrow is positioned a bit bottom. You can see for the tooltip arrow, for the bottom we have given there minus 1.2 rem. So let's copy the same value. Let's give the calc function. Inside that calc function, let's give minus 8 rem minus 1.2 rem. Now you can see it in your browser. This is the exact position that I want. Now let's go back to the index.html file. Now let's select that paragraph tag. Duplicate this code and let's give p. Let's change that variable name to p. Now I want to give that value inside the p tag. So for that I am writing p.innerText is equal to value. You can see when you slide your slider's thumb, that value is displayed. In the styled CSS file for the class tooltip, let's give text align center. Now you can see that value is at the center. And also let's style that tooltips paragraph. For the tooltips paragraph, I want to give margin top. For the margin top, I am giving 0.4 rem. Now similarly, for the class tooltip, when you give the class active, so before that, when you are not giving the active class for the class tooltip, for the transform, I want to give scale to 0. Let's duplicate this code and let's take it to the active class. I want to give scale to 1. That is the original size. Now in the browser, you can see when you slide your slider's thumb, you won't be able to see that tooltip. Now let's give that active class for the class tooltip with the help of JavaScript code. So I want to give tooltip.ClassList.add. I want to add active class. Now in the browser, when you slide your slider's thumb, now you can see tooltips reappears. Inside the style.css file for the class tooltip, I want to give some transition. For the transition name, I am giving transform. For the duration, I am giving 0.3 second. And for the timing function, I am giving is in out. Okay, in the browser now you can see a smooth transition, but I want to change the transform origin. So for that I am writing transform origin bottom. But when you click outside, still you can see that tooltip. So for that I am giving another event for the slider. Blur event. So there are different ways of giving the event. I don't want to give it in this way. So I'm writing slider dot on blur. I'm assigning arrow function, and inside that, let's duplicate that code, bring it to the arrow function, and instead of that add, let's give remove. Now let's take the browser to the full screen. So when you slide your slider's thumb, now you can see there is a smooth transition. When you click outside, that tooltip is gone, but you can see lots of decimal digits. So in order to prevent that, for the paragraph.innerText, first of all, let's change this string value to integer. So for that I'm writing parseInt. And for this whole value, let's give math.round. So this method will help you to avoid all the decimal digits. In the browser now you can see when you slide your slider's thumb, okay, now everything is working. Similarly now inside the style.css file, for the class slider, let's give active pseudo class. When the class slider is active, if you press shift backtick, then you will get this tilde symbol, and let's give dot progress. Let's duplicate that height and let's take it there. So for the height, I'm giving calc function, and inside that I'm giving 100% plus 0.2 rem. And also for the class progress, let's give transition. For the transition name, I'm giving height. For the duration, I'm giving 0.3 second. And for the timing function, I'm giving is in out. So don't get confused this. For the class slider, you can see I have given there colon active. Yeah, that's a pseudo class. And at the top, you can see for the tooltip, I have even dot active. So that dot active, that is the custom active class. You can see in the JavaScript code for the class tooltip, we are adding and removing the active class. You can see a kind of pulse effect. When you slide your slider's thumb, you'll get that tooltips, and when you click outside, tooltips is gone. And once again, when you slide your slider's thumb, tooltips reappears with little bit of animation, and also you can see that green progress bar with animation. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did learn something, smash that like button. If you have any kind of queries, let me know in the comment box. Share this video if you think someone needs it. And also be sure to hit that subscribe button. Remember, there is always more to learn, so keep learning.